Welcome to your Aged Care Compass podcast. Join us to find out how to support your older loved ones at home. We're going to help you make sense of Australia's aged care system. We talk about legal and financial considerations for ageing and how chronic health conditions impact your older loved ones' well-being. And we share real-life stories of where it went wrong for people and how we got them back on track.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to your Aged Care Compass for 2025. I'm Michelle, and it's so good to be back on the air with the podcast. We have a huge year of discussion ahead of us, mainly because the aged care sector is going through massive change right now, but also because from the conversations we had last year, people, you, our listeners, wanted us to go a little deeper on many of the topics.
We have a lot to talk about for sure, Shell. Hello, everyone. I'm Coral, and I'm so excited to be back with you this year. The aged care sector is currently undergoing massive change, as you've highlighted, Shell. These changes began back in July last year, 2024, with aged care assessments beginning to change. Then in September, the government announced the tabling of the new Aged Care Act. And then towards the end of the year, the new assessment workforces began.
Our listeners are also going to be hearing directly from aged care providers this year. Let's talk about that for a moment, Coral.
That's right, Shell. This year, we've invited some providers onto the podcast. We've decided to do this because we often see people complaining about their package provider across social media. Some of the comments people make are that providers are greedy and that they're all the same. It's not true. There are great providers out there. We know this because we're working with these providers, or our clients are receiving support from a great provider and they tell us about their experience. And also because our own parents had home care packages and received excellent support from their providers.
Absolutely. So why don't we begin with the changes that occurred in July last year? In July last year, a new assessment tool was introduced. This new tool is called the Integrated Assessment Tool, or the IAT. It replaces the National Screening and Assessment Form, or the NSAF. Can you tell us why this new assessment tool was introduced, Coral?
Yeah, sure, Shell. One of the many recommendations, Recommendation 28 to be specific, made from the Royal Commission into Aged Care Quality and Safety, was to streamline the assessment process so people didn't need to repeat their story time and time again.
Yep.
The Integrated Assessment Tool addresses that. This tool builds on previous information. So what this means is that when a person needs a review, all that previous information is already there in the person's file, meaning the older person doesn't need to repeat their story yet again. It also means the assessor can see how the person was at their previous assessment and focus immediately on what has changed.
And Coral, the IAT has been used by assessors since July last year, as we've already mentioned. If people are unaware how this tool is used and what information they need to convey at assessment, what advice would you give them?
Well, the way assessments are done and by whom using the IAT is a topic in itself, Shell. So we won't go into too much detail today about that because we'll be talking about that next month. But the important point that people need to be aware of is that they need to ensure they convey all the detail of their situation at the first conversation, which will be with My Aged Care. Now, it's always been vital that people do this, but given that the IAT builds on previous information, getting the foundational information correct is more important than ever.
And on September 12 last year, so 2024, the Aged Care Minister announced the tabling of the new Aged Care Act. We knew that the new Act was progressing, but the announcement on September 12th took a lot of people by surprise, didn't it, Coral?
Yes, it did, Shell. It was a big surprise.
We should come to expect this now, I think.
We love those department surprises.
Oh, don't we? The new Aged Care Act directs the way aged care services are governed, financed and delivered. And everyone, providers, subcontractors and recipients of care, both in-home and in residential care, are the focus of the new Act. We'll be talking about all these aspects in the coming months, but we're starting the year with the in-home program, Support at Home. This program merges the Home Care Packages program and the Short-Term Restorative Care program. At this point, not the Commonwealth Home Support program. Let's briefly talk about this, Coral.
That's right, Shell. It's a big change. Support at Home commences on July 1st of this year. This program has implications for people who are already receiving a home care package and for people who aren't receiving a home care package yet. It has implications for all of those people. The topic of support at home is going to be covered in many episodes in the coming months. We'll be talking with industry leaders and package providers about the implications for current recipients of care or participants, as is the new language. And we'll be exploring what support at home means for people who will be entering the aged care system from July the 1st.
Yep. And listeners, we've already written a couple of blogs that explain support at home and what's changing. I'll put the links to those blogs in the show notes. We're trying to provide as much information as possible to make the transition less confusing for everyone. So, Coral, aligning with the new assessment tool is the new assessment workforce, the single assessment service. This is such a big change, and it's essential people understand who is assessing them and how.
You're right, Shell. I mean, it's always been important that people know where they sit within the system. But if people don't understand how ACATs or aged care assessment teams have changed, that there isn't a workforce called the Regional Assessment Service or the RAS anymore, then they're going to become even more confused. So I know one of the things that we've been talking about is the change of language and terminology as we're moving ahead with the reforms. And I expect that people are going to be still talking about ACAT assessments and perhaps RAS assessments, but, there's not really there's no ACATs anymore. I mean, there are the original ACATs. It's a really tricky topic to be clear and definite about. But the way it is now is, think of the clinical workforces, which we know as the ACAT. They're going to be doing the comprehensive assessments, which is what they always did. And then there'll be the non-clinical part of that assessing workforce that will be doing the home support assessments, which is what they've always done as well. And that will be for the Commonwealth Home Support Program. But it's an interesting thing. I've had 2 clients this week who came to me for advice asking about their loved ones' ACAT assessments. And, within the first literally 30 seconds of our conversation, I knew that those people had not been ACAT assessed. And I've talked about this in previous episodes about how important it is to understand what kind of assessment you've had so that you know what kind of services you're going to be receiving, and then knowing what to do and when as your needs increase. So we're going to be incorporating that new terminology, today and every podcast moving forward this year, and just trying to bring that new terminology into our conversations so that we can diffuse any confusion that is going to arise in the coming months.
FlexiCare is a not-for-profit organisation which supports older people living in Brisbane's southern suburbs to live their best lives in their own homes and communities. FlexiCare don't have grand plans to be the biggest aged care provider. They want to be known for treating each one of their participants as an individual who they get to know well. They answer their phone calls personally when clients ring them. They give their clients easy access to a home care partner who can work with them to deliver the best mix of support possible. If you're in Brisbane South and want to know more, give their friendly team a call on 07 3422 8400 or check out their website flexi.org.au. Yep. And Coral, I've started this as well when I'm putting our Facebook posts out there as well. I'm trying to, this is the new terminology, this is the previous terminology, because we already know there's enough jargon in the aged care sector, and this is like adding another layer until people are comfortable to say, well, we don't use that jargon anymore, we use this jargon.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of learning for us and a lot of education coming for everyone who listens to us.
Yes.
So, Coral, what will the providers be contributing to the podcast in the coming weeks?
So just going back to what I said earlier about the community being disillusioned with providers and the negativity within the community about providers, the idea of inviting providers onto the show is to present the excellent service provision better providers are able to offer.
Fantastic.
And it's happening. It does happen.
Yep.
You know, these episodes where the providers are coming on as guest speakers, they're not going to be an empty sales pitch for the providers who are joining us.
No.
Because we've worked alongside and developed a trusted relationship with the providers who are joining us, it will showcase how these good providers are making a difference.
That's so good.
And these conversations are honest accounts too. I drove the conversation and encouraged these providers to talk about the challenges they face and how that impacts on the participants and how they ensure such challenges can be mitigated. You know, we see, I've just said it recently, we see so many comments about providers are greedy and providers are all the same and, you know, one provider is as bad as the next. Like that negativity just is so pervasive in the sector, but it's really not the case. I think we hear more about people's negative experiences than we do of the positive. So, you know, from our perspective, we're all about showcasing what's working, or if it isn't, we teach people and we show people how to get a better outcome. So bringing these really good providers onto the show, and look, I've been interviewing them in the past couple of weeks. We really go behind the scenes because I think it's important that, particularly now as we're going through the reforms and the changes, that people understand it's going to have a big impact on the community, you know, the older people and their families themselves, but the impact that it's having on providers is it's like enormous. It's huge. And I'd love to sort of, you know, show and explain for our listeners how providers are being so challenged in this space right now. I mean, we are 3 months out from support at home starting, and we still don't have the level of detail from the department that we need yet. So we're all still a little bit in the dark. And I think it's important that, you know, we're getting asked questions like every day. And we're always upfront when people ask us questions, and we ensure that the information we're relaying is accurate. But, you know, some of those questions we don't have the answers for. And when I mean we, not just us, but I mean the sector doesn't have answers for yet. So I think we're all moving towards, you know, that 1st of July deadline with a little bit of trepidation, certainly a lot of courage, but just still figuring it out collectively. What's this really going to look like on 1st of July, and what's it really going to mean for both providers and participants?
Yep. Well said, Coral. Yeah. And the other thing I think is important to highlight there too is some of the negativity that comes providers' way, it's out of their hands.
Yes.
The rules are there. The government has set the rules. It's not the providers.
That's
They are
right.
government rules. And I think we need to expand on that a little bit more as well in the future.
Definitely. Yes.
It's not the provider being awful. They have rules and they have to follow them.
Yeah, and look, you absolutely nailed it, Shell. And I know in some of the discussions I've been having with our guests in the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of, and the kind of questions we're being asked, there's a lot of these kind of questions, particularly with regards to the co-contributions and the financial aspect of support at home, which is out of the hands of the
Yes.
providers. So we'll certainly be decoding that, breaking that
Yep.
down and explaining that in the coming weeks.
Fantastic. So I'm just having a little moment here. We have a lot to talk about this year, don't we?
We do have a lot to talk about, Shell.
Oh, dear. Okay. And of course, we'll be talking about all those aligned topics relating to older people. So legal and financial considerations, dementia, chronic health conditions, palliative care, carers, advocacy, and more. Coral, do you think weekly episodes are enough?
No, I don't. Honestly, Shell, I just feel like the information that we need to be getting out there needs to be happening on a daily basis. Of course, that's not going to happen. It's just, we just could not manage that. But figuring out right now, what are the important topics? What do people really want to hear now? And honestly, it's a bit right across the board. I know, in the kind of work that we do, which is supporting older people to live well at home for as long as possible, support at home is dominating that conversation.
Yes.
But, there were things in the news, in the media last year. There was an investigation into retirement homes, which exposed how they operate. And that's very separate from the aged care sector. So I want to talk about that, and we'll be inviting our fantastic guest speakers back to discuss that. There's honestly so much to talk about, but what's achievable? A weekly episode is what's achievable.
Well, okay. Well, you've had a glimpse into what's coming in the podcast this year. We kick off next week with Catherine Newitt from Navigators, formerly Home Instead, who'll be joining us to chat with Coral, enlightening us about who Navigators is and how they support people with home care packages across Australia.
Can't wait, Shell. Listeners, thank you for joining us today. I hope you're as excited as we are about the discussions we're bringing in 2025. We have links to the blogs that we've written relating to the conversations that we've had today in the show notes. And if you want more information, please visit our website or join the mailing list. We provide a monthly newsletter where we keep everyone updated. Looking forward to catching up with you again next Tuesday. Until then, take care.
Hey Care community, thanks for listening to this episode. So you never miss a show, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. If you'd like to know more about what we do, head to our website, cmeacn.com.au.